Thank you for joining this short pre-Tisha B'Av idea and inspiration. I'm calling it part 1, and it's a sequel. Part 2, please God, will be something that we can learn on Friday, Erev Shabbos, Nachamu and Va'eschanan. But it's part 1, and we can think of it in terms of far from love. And it's part 1 because we also, on Tisha B'Av morning, the Torah reading comes from Va'eschanan, the Sedra that we will read on Shabbos, and it is the section from chapter 4, verses 25 to 40. And the idea that we read, that we hear about, we could have perhaps thought that on Tisha B'Av we should read the harsh sounding verses from the Sedras that talk about the rebuke. We have 2 Sedras that spell out the consequences of our failing to listen to the commands of Hashem. One in Bechukosai at the end of the book of Vayikra of Leviticus, and the second one in the Sedra of Kisovo in the book of Devarim. But we don't read those sections. We read the words from Va'eschanan. And I think that perhaps if we have a perspective that the love of Hashem for his people, our love for Hashem, our love for one another in the trials and tribulations of Tisha B'Av, we feel very distant. Hashem feels distant from us. We feel distant from Hashem. And this love, which is such an important part of our lives, is almost in jeopardy. And that's why the reading of Tisha B'Av morning from the Sedra of Va'eschanan is so perfectly appropriate. And it's worth looking at these few psukim, 15 to be precise. So starting with Pasuk 25. Ki solid bonim uvnei vonim v'noshantem ba'oretz. When you beget children and grandchildren, and you will have been long in the land, v'heshchatem va'asisem pesel tmunas kol, and you will grow corrupt and make a carved image of anything, va'asisem hara b'nei Hashem Elohecha lahachiso, and you will do evil in the eyes of Hashem your God to anger him. So in this pasuk, we have the tragic prophecy of our failure to listen to the words of Hashem. And there is a hint, if we look at Rashi on this pasuk, on the word venoshantem, in fact, and you will have been long. Ramaz lahem, he hinted to them, sheyiglu mamenu, that they would be exiled from the land, l'soif shmona me'os v'chamishim u'shtayim shana, at the end of 852 years, kaminyan venoshantem, like the numerical value of the word venoshantem. So the gematria, if you add up all the numerical value of the letters of the word, Venoshantem, and you will be a long time from Yashan, which means old. You add that up, and that comes to 852. Vehu hikdim, but Hashem advanced the date, v'heglem and exiled them l'sof shmona me'es v'chameshim shana, and he exiled them for 800 at the end of 850 years. That was the length of time after they came into Israel till the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. And he advanced the exile 2 years ahead of the number represented by Noshantem, Kedei Shelo Yiskayim Bahem Ki Ovod Tovedun, so that the prophecy of you shall surely perish should not be fulfilled. This is the meaning of that which is said by Yishkod Hashem al Hara, and Hashem hurried regarding the evil, V'yive'ehu aleinu, and brought it upon us, Ki tzadik Hashem Eloheinu, for Hashem our God is charitable. Tzedakah asa imanu, he acted charitably with us. She miher, because he hurried lahavia, to bring the exile. Shtei shonim lifnei zamanu, 2 years ahead of this time. So, just to try to clarify, that the prophecy in the Torah was that the Beis Hamikdash, the first Beis Hamikdash, would be destroyed 852 years after the period from the entry into the land of Israel until the length of time that the first Beis Hamikdash stood and was then destroyed. But Hashem hurried, as it were. He did that 2 years early. So the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed 850 years after their entry into the land of Israel. And this was considered a tzedakah. This was considered Hashem acting kindly towards us, because by making it that 2 years early, the prophecy of Hashem having to obliterate us completely was also did not have to actually come to fruition, because the entire period did not elapse that was indicated by this word noshantam, v'noshantam. And I think that what we're having sewn into the point, the lowest point, when we think about Tisha B'Av morning, and we are reading all the Kinnos, and we are remembering the horrific events and tragedies that have happened to us over the millennia. It is the lowest point. We are feeling furthest from love. And when people are at such a low point, then it is actually very dangerous. And we could say that the despair is so overwhelming that we are incapable of action. We are incapable of lifting ourselves out of this terrible, never-endingly deep rut. So I think that this reading of Eschanan is throwing us a lifeline, because while it is presenting very accurately the faults, the transgressions that caused us to be in this situation, equally it is giving us the encouragement, the hope that Hashem has mitigated in some way the full extent of the potential disaster. The fact that we although it's the remnants, we survive and we continue. And we need to have the sense and perspective of what we've done wrong, but we also need to be able to hold on to, grasp this lifeline, because we need to be able to correct and have the energy and the positive energy to move forward. And again, this is something that this very reading is going to give us, because the Torah says, that reminds us, in verse 31, so within the 15 verses that we're reading on Tisha B'Av morning, Ki El Rachum Hu, because he is a God of mercy, Lo Yarpcha velo Yashchisecha velo Yishkach es bris avesecha. He will not loosen his hold on you. He will not destroy you, and he will not forget the covenant of your forefathers, Asher Nishba Lohem, that he swore to them. And then it carries on, Hashama am kol Elohim medaber mitoch ha'esh. Has a people ever heard the voice of God speaking from the midst of fire? Kasher shomata, as you have heard. Ata, you, vayechi, and so you survived. O hanisa Elohim lovo lokachas lo goy mikerav goy. Or has any God performed miracles to come to take for himself a nation amidst a nation? Ba'osos u'b'movsim, with challenges, with signs, and with wonders, u'b'milchama, and with war, u'v'yod chazaka u'v'izroa natuya, and with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, u'v'morim gedolim, and with greatly awesome deeds, kachol asher asa lachem, like everything that he did for you, Hashem Elokechem b'Mitzrayim le'einecha, in Egypt before your eyes. So, at this lowest point where we are physically sitting low, where we are enduring the halachas of Tisha B'Av, the stringent halachas of mourning that have been escalating from the beginning of the 3-week period of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. And at this lowest point, we are not being beaten down further. We are being rather given a hand. Hashem, the words of the Torah, are reaching out to us to make us realize that there is one way to go now, and that way is up. And in the sequel, in the part 2, that we'll call Va'es Chanan, close to love. We'll see how the same Sedra of Va'es Chanan is going to give us the tools, the words to move from this view of far from love to close to love. But even at the point of far from love, we have to know that the love is there, but it's just far away. And it is incumbent upon us to close that gap, to really reduce the distance. And we can do that. And Tisha B'Av of all days is going to help us to do that. And the traditions that we have, that, for example, the Moshiach is born on Tisha B'Av, that the prophecies of Tisha B'Av that have come true are a forerunner of the prophecies of redemption that will come true. And these aspects of Tisha B'Av, they help us realize that the love is there. It's far away, but it's there. And so we are able to use this difficult day, these difficult experiences as a way to already start thinking about the love and how we are going to bridge that gap, how we are going to bring ourselves closer to Hashem, so that we are going to be able to experience Hashem's love for us and our love for Hashem through the prism and the help that this that new day will give us. I wish everybody a Tzom Kal, an easy fast and a meaningful fast, and may the words of everything that we read, maybe the words of especially this Torah reading from Va'es Chanan that we read Tisha B'Av morning, may we receive the encouragement and be able to go forward with their inspiration. Thank you very much for listening.